All right, let's jump right in today. We're diving deep into this world of NGOs.
Ah, yes.
And their influence online. It's a bit, well...
shadowy.
Yeah, shadowy and definitely surprising. We're going to be looking at this group, the Free Russia Foundation.
Okay.
It seems pretty simple at first, just, supporting civil society and democratic development in Russia, the typical stuff.
Right, on the surface, very standard. But when you start, digging a little deeper, you find some connections to some pretty big names.
Oh.
Like Leonid Nevzlin.
Okay.
A Russian oligarch, and also Natalia Arno and Anna Veduta.
I've heard those names.
Yes, they're both very prominent in the Russian opposition movement.
Okay, so it sounds like there's more to this story than we might think initially. What about these elves we keep hearing about?
Ah, yes, the elves.
Linked to this organization. What's the deal with that?
Well, these elves are actually networks of individuals,
Yes.
often Russians who've relocated. And they're operating out of places like Vilnius and Tbilisi. And they get paid to carry out specific activities online.
So they're like working online.
Exactly. Think of them like elf factories.
Elf factories. What is that? Something out of Tolkien?
Well, the term, it's used intentionally to contrast with the whole idea of troll farms.
Yeah.
That are associated with Russia.
Right, of course.
We are talking about, information warfare here, so the words we use are important.
For sure, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
So these elves, they're like digital foot soldiers fighting for a cause.
In a way, yes.
What are they actually doing, though? What's the work?
It's very organized, these factories. Like, they have physical offices, employees are on salary.
Yeah.
There are strict instructions, reporting procedures, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
They use, specialized software, VPNs, fake accounts.
To stay hidden.
Yes, to disguise their activities online.
So this is like a big organized operation. This isn't like a couple of people posting stuff online.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking like over 2.3 million comments posted in just 18 months. And they're targeting, about 900 online communities.
Which are?
They're considered pro-government.
So this is strategic.
Very much so. It's a well-oiled machine.
Okay, so we've got these elf factories.
Right.
Pumping out comments, trying to influence, discussions online. But who is paying for all of this? Where's the money coming from?
That is a great question. And it leads us down a very fascinating path.
Okay.
We're talking millions of dollars in grants. Millions. And it's mainly coming from U.S.-based international funds.
Okay.
The kind that typically support movements advocating for liberal democracy.
Right.
And a lot of these funds, they have ties to the U.S. State Department, particularly during the Obama administration.
Hold on, you're saying like the U.S. government might be funding online activities that are targeting Russia?
Well, it's important to remember that the funding web is, very complex.
Okay.
It's not just one source. We also see connections to Mikhail Khodorkovsky.
Oh, wow.
Another Russian oligarch. He's been a critic of Putin's regime.
Yeah.
And there are links to the Anti-Corruption Foundation, the ACF,
Okay.
led by associates of Alexey Navalny.
So we've got the U.S. State Department, Khodorkovsky, Navalny's allies, and then the Free Russia Foundation. It's like a lot of players.
Yes, it's quite a tangle.
How do all these pieces fit together?
Well, that's where Anna Veduta comes in. She's really, she's a central figure within the Free Russia Foundation.
Okay.
And her story, well, it's pretty illuminating.
All right, tell me more. What's Anna Veduta's role in all this?
Her journey is, well, it's fascinating.
Okay.
She started as Navalny's press secretary. And then eventually she became a strategic communications expert in Washington, D.C.
So from Russia to D.C.
Yeah. And now she's deeply involved in lobbying the U.S. Congress, specifically on the issue of sanctions against Russia.
So she's trying to influence U.S. policy.
Directly, yes. And when you look at, Veduta's financial records, things get even more interesting.
What do you?
Well, she's received hundreds of thousands of dollars from both the ACF and entities that are linked to Khodorkovsky.
So she's being paid to push for policies that, that align with these organizations.
It certainly seems that way.
It's a pretty big revelation. I mean, if that's true.
It raises a lot of questions, that's for sure. Like, there's a real disconnect between what Veduta says publicly about her volunteer work.
Oh, I see.
And then the reality of her, paid lobbying activities.
Yeah, that doesn't add up. This is getting deeper by the minute. We've gone from like, elf factories to these shadowy funding networks. And now we've got this key player lobbying for U.S. sanctions against Russia. Where do we even go from here?
Well, to really understand all of this, I think we need to go back to those elves and dig a little deeper into their tasks, their actual work.
Beyond the comments.
Right. It goes beyond just posting comments. They're engaged in coordinated campaigns.
To do what?
To shape online narratives.
Okay, like what? What kind of campaigns?
One clear example is the Nord Stream 2 pipeline project.
Right.
These elves were very active in online campaigns, trying to discredit the project.
Nord Stream 2, that was a big, geopolitical issue. Are you saying these elves were trying to influence, like, international energy policy?
It's a valid question. They were definitely pushing certain narratives, often ones that contradicted, what the Russian government was saying.
Interesting.
And remember, all of this is being funded by, foreign entities.
Right.
Which, of course, raises ethical questions about manipulation, foreign interference.
This is a lot to think about. Makes you wonder about, everything we see online.
It really does. It makes you rethink how political influence actually works.
Yeah.
And we're just getting started.
Oh.
In our next segment, we'll expose the full scope of this network.
Okay. And explore its impact, both inside Russia and on the international stage.
Yeah.
You're in for some aha moments, I think.
All right. Looking forward to it. We're back, and we've been talking about this network of elves working out of these factories and their connection to Free Russia Foundation. And we talked about Leonid Nevzlin.
Yes.
It's crazy to think about just how big this whole thing is, targeting Russia.
It's a massive operation.
You mentioned these coordinated campaigns. What else are they doing? What are they aiming for?
Well, it's not just about supporting or attacking specific projects like we talked about with Nord Stream 2.
Right.
They also have another task. They're directed to go after individuals. Yeah, people who are seen as unfavorable to Navalny and his allies.
Oh, so like online attacks, trying to ruin their reputations.
Essentially, yes. They use these platforms to spread negative information, try to discredit reputations.
And the goal is to
silence these voices. That's pretty messed up. It sounds like they're using the same tactics that, people accuse the Russian government of using.
Right.
Except they're doing it like under this banner of, opposition and democracy.
It's a bit ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems pretty hypocritical.
Many people have pointed that out.
Yeah.
It raises some, fundamental questions about the ethics of using these tactics, regardless of who's behind them.
For sure. So we have these elf factories, funded by this whole network.
Yes.
The U.S. State Department, Khodorkovsky, Navalny's allies.
It's all connected.
All engaged in online manipulation.
At the very least.
Even targeting individuals.
Yeah.
What kind of impact is this having? Is it working?
Well, these revelations, they've definitely caused quite a stir.
I bet.
Both within the Russian opposition movement and, beyond that.
Yeah. People are upset.
It's like someone pulled back the curtain.
Right.
And exposed what's really going on.
Yeah, exactly.
The reactions have been, they've been telling some figures like Leonid Volkov and Maria Pevchik from ACF. They've denied any knowledge of these elf factories.
Really? I mean, I guess that's not surprising.
No, it's a pretty predictable response given the potential fallout.
Right.
Others have tried to justify these activities by calling it counter-propaganda.
What does that even mean?
Basically, they're saying, it's just pushing back against the narratives that the Russian government is putting out there.
So fighting fire with fire.
Exactly.
But isn't that kind of admitting that they're doing the same thing?
It's a tricky argument. It raises the question of, do the ends justify the means?
Yeah. I mean, where do you draw the line?
That's the key question. How do we distinguish between, legitimate counter-propaganda and just straight-up manipulation?
That's a tough one, especially with social media and everything.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why these revelations are so important, They force us to confront the reality of information warfare online.
And how it affects us.
Exactly. It affects our perceptions, our opinions, even, our political systems.
It's scary to think about, actually.
It is. We're talking about manipulating public opinion.
On a huge scale.
Yes, on a massive scale. And it's becoming harder and harder to tell the difference between what's true and what's not, Between
real activism and just propaganda.
Exactly.
It's all getting blurred.
You've hit the nail on the head. And we're just scratching the surface here. In the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore the implications of all of this.
Okay.
And look at the broader context of, foreign funding and political influence in this digital age.
All right, looking forward to it. It's crazy how all of this connects back to, Free Russia Foundation.
Right.
We've got Natalia Arno, Anna Veduta, and then the funding and those online activities.
There's a lot to unpack.
It all seems geared towards influencing people,
Absolutely.
Shaping how they think, not just in Russia, but globally.
Yeah, it's a pretty broad reach.
And of course, it all links back to Leonid Navalny, that Russian oligarch we talked about.
It's quite a network.
What really gets me is just how organized and sophisticated it all seems.
It's not just random, that's for sure.
It's deliberate, right? There's a plan.
It's very well funded, highly organized, not just a few individuals,
It makes you wonder, how can anyone even tell the difference between, the truth and all the manipulation?
That's the challenge we all face now.
I mean, especially with the internet and social media.
Absolutely. It's why critical thinking and media literacy are so important.
More now than ever.
Yes, definitely. We need to be aware of, potential bias, manipulation, hidden agendas.
I mean, is there any way to be more discerning about the information, the information we see? Are there any red flags we should look out for?
There are some things to watch out for.
Okay, like what?
Well, always think about the source. Who's behind the information?
Right.
What are their motives? Are they upfront about their funding, their goals?
So be skeptical?
Exactly. If there are vested interests, hidden agendas, you got to be careful.
Okay, what else?
Watch out for, emotionally charged language.
Oh, yeah.
Images, that kind of thing. Propaganda often uses fear, anger, outrage.
To get you riled up.
Right, to sway people.
So if something really makes you feel something strong.
Take a step back.
Okay.
Try to look at it objectively.
But don't just react.
Right.
And what about fact-checking?
That's crucial. Check multiple sources. Don't just rely on one website or news outlet or social media feed.
I see.
Get different perspectives.
So variety is important.
Definitely. Broaden your sources. Be open to different views. It'll help you get a clearer picture.
And I guess even with, reputable sources, you still got to be careful.
Oh, absolutely. Even they can be influenced, Bias, hidden agendas, it's everywhere. It's essential to be critical of all information, no matter where it's coming from.
This has been really eye-opening. Makes you realize that you can't just you can't take anything at face value.
It's the unfortunate reality.
Got to question everything, verify, think critically.
That's the key.
It's a lot of work, though.
It is, but it's crucial. As we move further into this digital age, it's only going to get more challenging. It's on us to develop those critical thinking skills, to separate truth from falsehood and to resist manipulation.
Yeah, no matter where it's coming from.
Exactly.
This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about. Thanks so much for sharing your expertise and helping us understand this crazy world.
My pleasure. Remember, knowledge is power. The more we understand about these tactics, the better prepared we are.
Yeah, to protect ourselves, I guess.
Yes.
Well, on that note, we'll wrap things up. We hope you found it as interesting as we did. Subscribe to our podcast, which is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. We are here to make things clear